Okay,
Okay,
great.
I'll let you
Welcome
introduce
everybody. Sally and I were joking ahead of this that it's so beautiful. I would not be hurt at all if no one showed up, but we'll record this so folks can certainly have access. And then my contact information is at the very end of these slides, and I'm easily accessible, so you can always reach out to me. And that goes for folks here or not here. So those of you who are here, I mean, there's so few of us. Usually I say, if you have questions or what have you, put them in the chat. But honestly, if you have a question, raise your hand or just shout the question out as I'm going through. So, I mean, that'll be no problem at all. So what I want to talk about today are how to put together your chapter website, perhaps things to consider, and also social media you may or may not use. And the focus is going to be finding your people, essentially finding members, if that's what one of your goals is, which I imagine it is for most of us, sharing your message, building your own community on your campus, and so on. So a little bit about me. I am a professor with Mary Rose at St. Bonaventure, and I teach in our School of Communication. And before coming to St. Bonaventure, I worked in healthcare. I was in public relations and creative services for Catholic Health, which is the second largest healthcare provider in Buffalo. So this is what I did. I actually put together Catholic Health's first website at the end of, or the beginning of this century. So this is something I've done. And I will say this, social media, I think I'm pretty good, but social media changes every 10 seconds, I think. So there are new sites and different things. So I do my very best to stay abreast of these things. And often I have to ask my students too, like, what are you guys on right now? But you won't need to worry about that. That's just a little background about me. So whoops, what's happening here? Okay. So the things that you need for a website, I mean, the basic things, you want to have a laptop, a desktop, some kind of computer. I think there are people who do their websites on their phones. If that's you, good for you. I can't do that. You want to make sure you absolutely have internet access. And then I say you do want a cell phone, preferably a smartphone, because there are so many apps, particularly the social media apps, that will be helpful to use on your phone as well as their actual websites on the internet. So those are things that you're going to absolutely want to use. Now, one of the things you might consider too, and we tried to do this with the state chapter, and Sally, I think we can still try and do it perhaps in the fall, even though I said I'm not going to count on it. If you have students who need internship credit or internship hours, you might consider asking students, especially if you have a communication department or something related, marketing department, if they want to help you with the website or with the social media and so on, because they're pretty good. So why should you have a chapter website? And not everybody needs one, or not everybody is going to have one, but generally speaking, it's going to make you look a little bit more professional. When Mary Rose reached out to me asking me if I would join AAUP, I'm a relatively newer member. The first thing I did was Google AAUP. So I'm looking for your website, and I looked for a website for Bonaventure and I didn't see it. And kudos to Sally. She does a really, really good job with the New York State Conference website. So that's an excellent resource. But the National AAUP site is also wonderful too. And I've seen a couple of different chapter websites, and I can show you the one that we're working on at St. Bonaventure too. It's very, very basic. You don't need to get incredibly fancy. You just want to make sure you're looking professional. You want to make sure you have information there that's going to be beneficial and helpful for anybody who might be a new member, as well as your current members. Your website should show who you are and what you do. It should be able to keep everything in one place. Absolutely provide links to information that's on our state website as well as the national site. You don't need to reinvent the wheel. I mean, one of the things I was starting to do as the communication director for our state conference was, I'm thinking, I'll start writing up these different things. And Sally said, it's on the national site, just link to it. We don't need to reinvent the wheel. You want to be able to control your narrative, and people expect to find you somewhere. So again, if you approach someone and ask them to join you, they probably the first thing they're going to do is Google you or ask you, okay, are you on Facebook? Do you have a website? I mean, think about your own behaviors. So that's something to consider as well. Now, what do you generally put on your site? You absolutely want to make sure you have a description of who or what you are. Make sure you're adhering to any of the branding guidelines for the state conference or the national. So if there's a logo, I mean, you want to make sure you're using the appropriate logo or colors and different things. And I don't know, honestly, if, if we have too many restrictions on the colors necessarily, but I know you want to make sure you're using an AAUP logo so that folks see your site, but also see the state site or the national site, and they recognize that it's all one organization, or it's all one, team, if you will. A simple web address, you want to have, I mean, you don't want to have something so long that people, first of all, have a chance to misspell it, or that it's going to take them forever to type it in. So do something simple. So we wouldn't, for example, have, www.St. Bonaventure University, all spelled out, not SBU, American Association of Universities. I mean, no one's typing that, forget it. So try and do something simple if you can. The best sites I find are the cleanest sites. They're very clear. They're not cluttered. So you don't have all kinds of random photos and random content. And one of the mistakes that I see when people first start working on websites is, especially if they're using some templates, they want to use all the different templates or all the different things you can because I can. Perhaps you've had the students who, the first time they try PowerPoint, they want to do all of the different bells and whistles that come with PowerPoint, and it's annoying as hell. So, make sure that it's a clean, clear site. Make sure your navigation is easy, and I'm going to talk about developing a sitemap in a second. You want your content to be fresh. The last thing you want is someone to go to your site or your social media and to see something that that hasn't been updated in, 5 years or something. You want it to be as fresh and current as possible. Make sure you have some kind of contact information. You want people to be able to find somebody, even if it's you've gotten the Gmail address. So maybe it's sbuaaup@gmail if you don't want to use your own address. And that's something for you to consider as a chapter. I know folks are sometimes nervous to use their own personal addresses because what if you leave? Or what if you are in an accident, maybe don't come back to AAUP. So think about that. But then make sure if you have the contact information and a web address that someone's checking that. And because the last thing you also want is someone to send an email and then the person in charge of checking that doesn't do it for 3 months, then you've lost somebody. That's not what you're looking for either. Have a call to action, even if that call to action is join us. Which I'm guessing with most of the chapter sites, that's what you're looking for. And that may change too. So if you have during the year, I know with our state site, you're going to have different calls to action. So I think I just saw an email that we're planning the fall conference. So, okay, when it gets closer to that, the call to action might be register for the conference. If you have a rally coming up, okay, come to this rally, let us know you're coming, sign up for this webinar, whatever things you're doing, have something for people to do. And absolutely on the sites, link to any of your social media accounts. And then think too about the questions that people are asking you. So when we were putting together our site for the St. Bonaventure chapter, we started thinking about, okay, well, what are the questions that when I approach somebody and say, hey, would you join AAUP? What are the questions they are asking me? Can I have those answers on the website? So it's, yes, I can answer you in person. That's always nice. It's a personal touch, but they can always follow up with information that's on the website. So think too about the things that people are asking you and the things that come up. Take a sip here. Now there are so many different, I listed just 11 here that I found just today through a quick search of free website platforms. Now, all of these also have a paid version, except I don't think Google Sites does, or Facebook, now that I've said that. But 3 through 11 have a paid version, but they also have the free version. So you can set up your own website on Google Sites. A lot of people, a lot of companies are using the Facebook business page as a website. That's a pet peeve of mine. It drives me up a wall, but people do it. It's free. And for your chapter, it's certainly an option because you can have information there that you would have on a website. Anthony, you mentioned WordPress. I know, Sally, you use WordPress for our site. WordPress is another one of those that drives me crazy because I find it to be not really user-friendly, but it does have the free option. I use Wix quite a lot. I've used Squarespace. That's the site or the platform that we use for the Western New York Faculty Coalition. And to be fair, I've never used 6 through 11. I put them here because I found them as free options. So if you use those, I mean, that's up to you. I've heard of them, but I've never played with them or used them. But they're all,
Colleen,
oh,
can I interject here? I also recommend Weebly.
oh, Weebly, yes, yes.
I recommend Weebly. So if you want to, before you post the slides, if you want to add that one to the list, it's extremely user friendly.
Yeah.
And I think more than sufficient for most chapters.
That's so funny because, I've used Weebly before actually too. And for some reason, when I did the search today, it didn't come up. I hope they're not out of business or something, but Wix is incredibly user-friendly. Squarespace is incredibly user-friendly. Google Sites is user-friendly. Like I said, WordPress I've not found to be so user-friendly, but once you get past some of the hurdles, you'll figure it out. And I will issue a caution about free. This is something else that does drive me crazy. They'll say the site is free, and the exception here would be the Google Sites and Facebook, but I've played with WordPress and Wix on their free site, and then I want to add a different font or I want to add a video, and suddenly I've got to buy or I've got to pay for something. So keep those things in mind too. But for the most part, for what you're going to be doing for your chapter site, if this is what you're planning to do, you can do it free. A word about the web addresses also. Those you can get free, like on the Google site that we have a URL that we didn't pay for. Any of the sites that I have that I've referenced on Wix, I've actually paid for that URL so that I can have one that I actually want. But I think it's like 15 to 20 bucks a year. It's not really expensive, but if you're really trying to be inexpensive about things, you might just consider using the sort of default free URL. So for example, with WordPress, I know if I wanted to use like www.sbuaaup.com, I'd have to pay for that. But if I wanted to use www.wordpress.com/sbuaaup, you wouldn't. So those are just some things to think about too. And all of these sites, again, for the most part, once you get past some of the initial quirks with each of them, they're pretty easy to use. Even WordPress, as much as I just slammed WordPress. And I note here, you can't break the internet. Like, I mean, I know Kim Kardashian tried, but I can't believe I just used that reference here with you guys. But anyway, you can't break the internet. If you screw something up, okay. I mean, just go back and fix it, delete it, start from scratch. Nothing's going to close down. You're not going to infiltrate some government. I mean, you can't screw this up. So don't worry so much about this. All of the sites too that I referenced have some templates or have a lot of templates. So rather than go and reinvent the wheel and think you've got to create your site from absolutely nothing, pick a template and then just fill in the pieces that you need. The templates will allow you to add different pages. They give you the same look and feel across the whole site. So again, don't feel like you have to start completely from scratch. You can choose a template. I suggest that you draw a sitemap. I have an example of what I mean by that, so don't feel daunted by that. Take a look at what other chapters are doing, what the state's doing in national sites. Now, some of those folks have people dedicated to just doing their websites, so please don't think that needs to be you. But take a look at what other chapters are doing. Are they doing something? Copy them. I mean, people aren't going to mind that so much. And I stress, don't reinvent the wheel. Keep it simple, stupid, the KISS acronym. Don't, again, feel like you have to have all of these photos and all of these colors and all of the different, all these different words and things. Think about your own habits. People, generally speaking, and think about yourself. When you go to a website, I get really annoyed if I can't find something within 2 or 3 clicks. So don't put things on there that are so deep into your site that people are going to take an hour to find it. You want to try and make things as clean, uncluttered, and easily navigable as you possibly can. So now this is what I mean by a sitemap. So before you put your site together, think about what you need to have on there. This is just an example. I mean, you might use these, please, if you want to, that's fine. If you have other things that you think need to be there, but generally speaking, the main bullets that I have are the about us, contact us, in the news, upcoming events, resources, and join. That might be your navigation bar at the top of your web page. You might not need that many. I'm a fan of fewer at the top because you can always have drop down, which is what the other little bullets here are. So if you see, the about us, maybe you have a list of officers. Maybe you want some chapter information, then you have the contact us. And this isn't necessarily, I might put contact us, before join or something. I mean, this doesn't necessarily need to be your order either. Maybe you want an in the news section where you have links to relevant news stories or links to things that you've actually written or pitched. Do you have an upcoming events? And these are examples. I put happy hour in there just because it's like 10 to 7. So, you know, we should be thinking about that right now. Or happy hour was sooner, I suppose. Do you have the resources? Are you linking to the national site and to certainly the New York State site? Are you linking to your social media? Make sure you have those links there. And all of the website development tools that I shared also have the ability for you to add those little social links, and I'll show you what I mean by those. So this is what I mean by sitemaps. Sit down and think about, before you even get started, what is it you absolutely want to have on your site? And then think, if you start listing things and you've got a list of, you know, 15 or 20 things, you start to pare back, because you don't want to have so many things at the top in your navigation that if someone's looking at it on their phone, which they likely will do, you're getting lost. So you want to make sure that things will be mobile friendly. Again, those sites, everything now is pretty much making things mobile friendly. So that's not something you necessarily need to worry about, but think about that when you're putting information up there. So then I have a couple of examples, and I'm hoping, I'm going to click on, this is the Western New York Faculty Coalition. This is the group of us out here in Western New York who are fighting administrators. Pretty much the Canisius Medaille Keuka situation that the National AAUP just investigated. We've got the Omnibus Report press conference coming out next week, but I'm going to click on this and see. Did this open? Do you see this? Oh, nope. Okay. No, you're not seeing this. All right, hang on. Let me, sometimes this happens and I'm not sure why.
Yeah, I think you have to reshare.
Yeah, is it showing up now?
It is.
Okay, all right. Yeah, I was hoping I didn't have to reshare, but thank you for that. So this is the site. Mary Rose started this. This is in Squarespace. And you can see at the top, we have our mission statement in the news, the contact us, how to join us, and then show your support, join us. And then we have a little who we are. This is very, very clean, very simple, really easy to do there, because this isn't necessarily, well, I shouldn't say not affiliated with AAUP. They had their own logo created because we're forming our own little coalition. But and we also have, hang on, I've got, hold up here. Let me see if this is, okay. Did the join us page show up? Okay, all right. So the other thing you can do, which is also really nice, is this is a nice little form, and this is in most of the websites too. You can easily add a form so that folks fill this out and you attach an email to it. So I think Mary Rose, you're getting all of these, if memory serves, or somebody's getting them. It's not me.
I'm getting them.
Oh, you're getting them. There you go. So these are just some things that you can incorporate. They chose, here's the mission. And then we have in the news, we have a couple of things. And then I'm going to be adding, as I mentioned, we have a press conference coming up. So I'll be adding that information. And then here's the contact us. So we have Fred Floss. I think everybody probably knows Fred, and everybody certainly knows Mary Rose. And then Mary Rose, I forget if you just purchased this, or somebody must have purchased the .NET website.
Yeah,
so.
Actually, it was a Keuka college person who initially set it up, and she just set it up with this is basically, she used as one of the templates.
Yeah.
In Squarespace. Yeah, and it was super easy for her to transfer it over to me. So.
Yeah, and I make updates, like, people will say, can you add this or do this? And it takes no time. Once you get the hang of it, it really is very easy to make changes and update. Okay, so I'm going to share. I'm going to share this. Let me do this. Whoop. This is one of the sites we did in the Google site. So if you go to sites.google.com, you're able to create your own site. And again, this is just a template that we put together. And this is our draft. It says draft because we're still updating it. But we have home, about the chapter, resources, and how to join us at the SBU chapter. And we are using the AAUP logo. Welcome to the St. Bonaventure chapter website. And then these are questions that folks have asked us on campus, like, well, what does AAUP do? Why would I join? And so on. So we've put information here about academic freedom and shared governance. And I think I stole this from either the national site or the state site. So again, it's all AAUP material. So by all means, take it and use it. So it's not as though it's, or at least I hope it's not. Maybe I'm gonna get fired shortly, Sally, don't tell me that. But this is, again, a very simple site that you can do on Google, cost us nothing. And we don't have the URL yet because we're still doing it as a draft. So we don't want this to be public necessarily. So and then I'll show, okay. Thank you for your patience. And this is, Sally will recognize, this is our New York State site. So again, link to things here, particularly the resources. And you can see we have a lot of the drop-down menus, which is certainly something you can do too, because you don't want your navigation bar to be too cluttered. So think about the information that you want there, but then also remember, don't reinvent the wheel. If it already exists, by all means, use it and link to it so that you can share that with your folks. So before I'm going to jump into, I believe, let me stop here. I'm going to jump into social media next. So before I do that though, does anyone have any questions? Or I see Anthony made a comment, there's a free thing called Hugo. Oh, but you need, oh, is that kind of like a WordPress or something, Anthony? Or, oh, you're muted.
It's serious free software stuff. So okay. I mean, if you're techie enough to use it, it makes nice sites, and there's no question of buying anything. But I never actually got it to work for me. So, and I will totally agree with you. I can't stand WordPress. In fact, we've hired a graduated student to maintain the site, because it takes me a half an hour each time I try to put something on it that's new. So maybe it's good for some people, but it hasn't worked for me.
Yeah. Now, are you seeing my slides again?
Yes.
Okay. So these will be made available on, or Sally's going to make them available somehow. I also put my own personal sites here in case you want to take a look at some other things. March into Women's History is a project I do with some folks on campus. That's a WordPress site. But the P.W. Hoffman, Data Doyen, and Tippy Homestead are all Wix sites that I do, and they're my personal sites, just as examples of, other things you can do in some different templates and things. So I put this here in case you want to reference that. But yeah, I have people who swear by WordPress. One of the things I do like about WordPress, I will say this, if you want to have, you could probably do this with other sites, I've never needed to. If you wanted to have a special section that was password protected that maybe only members get to see, I know WordPress is really good for that. I suspect other sites, other products are as well. I just haven't had to, set anything like that up. So today I did a quick search. You may remember at the very beginning, I mentioned that social media changes every 10 seconds. So today I just Googled and I said, okay, what social media sites are available? There were 101. And I thought, who's using these sites? What are they for? I mean, I can't even imagine that. So I listed a bunch of social media sites here. So just to kind of make it seem a bit daunting, I would never expect anyone to be using all these sites. I don't even think my students use all of these sites. I don't even know what some of them are. I don't know what QQ is. I don't know what QZone is. I've never used some of these things. And that's fine. I don't want anyone to look at this and say, oh, forget it. If I have to do all of this, you're not doing that. Here are probably the most common. So TikTok, has anybody been doing this? Apparently everybody's TikTok dancing and doing TikTok videos and things in quarantine. I enjoy watching them. Snapchat, that is, a lot of the young kids are using this, and it is content that, disappears after a day or something. YouTube, I'm sure we're all familiar with YouTube. LinkedIn, Pinterest skews heavily female as a demographic. That's where, they're doing a lot of the do-it-yourself sorts of things and recipes as well as other stuff. Instagram is very picture heavy, Twitter, and then Facebook. And the ones that I want to focus on specifically for you guys would be YouTube, LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. I'm not suggesting you do all of them because, first of all, you won't have time. I don't do all of them, even in my own personal social media. But I want to talk about each of them and have you think about how they may work for you with what you're trying to do with your own chapters and with what content that you might have. So I'll start with YouTube. YouTube is pretty much videos. You can get your own YouTube channel. You can share content that way. So if you had a lot of videos that you wanted to showcase, YouTube would be a great outlet. I actually was working on the communication plan for the state chapter, or the state conference rather, and I'm not even recommending YouTube because we don't have enough content where it would be worth it. Because what you have to think about too with social media is you can't just post one video on YouTube and then never post another video. It's something that you have to do fairly consistently. Now, YouTube, the channels that work really well and the ones that get a lot of traction, they're posting probably a video a week, if not more than that. At the very least, a video a month. If that's not something you can do or maintain, I don't recommend necessarily having a YouTube channel. You might post videos on YouTube and link them to your website, but I wouldn't necessarily have the channel. So something to consider. LinkedIn is something I'm convincing slowly but surely, Sally, that we might do for the state. But things that you post there, I mean, we won't necessarily post jobs and career info, but we might post chapter news, any professional content, and it doesn't necessarily have to be content you've created. If you see something that's in the news or you see something else that's on LinkedIn that is relevant to your chapter or to what you're doing or to higher education or unions in general, I mean, by all means, post it if you want to put it on LinkedIn. You can put it on your own personal LinkedIn pages, or you can set up a LinkedIn page for your chapter and have people join you on LinkedIn. They can also share content. One of the things I like with social media that's a little bit different from your website, not that folks couldn't share on your website if you had a blog or something, or I mean, they can contact you through the Contact Us, but social media is really where you're going to build your community and you're going to have conversations that we hope would be two-way, because hopefully if you post something and someone comments on it, you then either like that or comment back so that you can carry on this conversation and build that relationship and build that community. So that's really the idea with social media. You don't want to just, again, post something. If you're going to post on LinkedIn, they recommend about once a week again. And I actually have a spreadsheet that I can share that I stole from somewhere. I've referenced it, so you can always find it yourself, but the best times to post on each of the social media platforms, the best day of the week to post, the best way to get the best engagement. So I can share that with you as well, so you have that information. Let me go to Instagram. Ironically, when I was doing this, I couldn't find a little infographic for Instagram, which is so photo heavy, but you want photos. And I'm sure if you're on Instagram now, you see people post quotes. There are stories, and the stories are sort of Snapchat-like. Instagram is trying to be, well, Facebook and Instagram are trying to be all things to everybody. Stories disappear after a day. I don't generally do a lot with those, but post photos if you have them, quotes if you have them. But Instagram is something you post to every day. So if you're not going to be posting every day, if you don't have a lot of photos and you don't have things that you can do, then you might not want to do this, because Instagram isn't going to give you the community you want if you're only going to be able to post even once a week or once every month. So Instagram is one of those you want to post every day. Now, before people panic, I'm going to talk about how you can do that. So if you're looking at this thinking, well, forget social media, I have a job and, a life, there are tricks to this. So I'll get to that in just a second. On Twitter, things you post on Twitter, if you're on Twitter, you've seen people posting news. There's a lot of retweeting, which is just sharing your content, a lot of blog posts and other curated content. You've got your GIFs, you've got photos, you've got short videos. The thing with Twitter is you only have so many characters. You have 260 characters to get at what you want to say. Twitter can be a pain in the butt though too, because you have to post every day, but multiple times a day. So it's not just, I'll post in the morning. You have to post and comment throughout the day. And if you're like me, you don't have that time. But I'll tell you some tips and tricks here. Facebook is like my least favorite, because for me, Facebook has gotten so political that it's almost poisonous with some of the content that I find people sharing. But the things that work well on Facebook, video, photos, links, and then, your status updates. And if you're going to do this, you want to make sure that you're being consistent across the platforms, that you're posting content that matters. I mean, especially for your site, you're not going to be saying, oh, look at what I ate for breakfast. I mean, that's not what you're going to be posting on Facebook, unless maybe you had breakfast in your dining hall and you want to, brag on it. I'm not sure. But at any rate, so those are things that you would post on Facebook. And I found this little graphic too that I thought was pretty helpful too. So 20 creative ways to share your content on social media. Not all of these obviously will be relevant to, what you're doing with your chapter. Like you might not create a how-to video, but maybe you have a blog post, if you want to have a blog on your website. Do you have a meaningful quote? Is there something in the news that's, you've got some data, you want to put a chart up, or you have a graph of some kind or a different graphic that you want to post that's relevant. So I put this here just to give you some different ideas. Now here I say, you need a lot of time to do this properly. You need a lot of energy. You do need know-how. I put time in here several times because I think it's worth repeating several times. You need to have the content to post, and you need to figure out who's going to do it. So if you're like us, you have like 2 people, 1 person, maybe half a person who can do this. So how do you do this? There are a lot of different free resources that will help you to create your content, but then also post your content. So Hootsuite is like the one of the best platforms. It can also, they have a free version. I find it a little bit clunky, and they also have a paid version. But this is where any of these later, Hootsuite and Loomly, you can schedule your social media posts. So I use Loomly quite a lot, and I will set up my posts on a Sunday, for example. So I usually will post something on LinkedIn on a Tuesday, because Tuesday seems to be the best day to post on LinkedIn. So maybe I have a blog post that I post there. I try to post something every day on Instagram, and I can schedule that. And as I said, I just do it on Sunday because that's when I can sit down to do it. Pick a day whenever you want, or get a student. But then also I will pay attention to what's going on in the news, particularly related to Twitter, because if I see something, maybe I'm going to tweet the article from the New York Times, or maybe I'll tweet something from Inside Higher Ed, or different resources that I think folks are going to respond to or be interested in. I have a little space, and then I reference Canva, Visme, and then Adobe Spark. There are others, but I created this presentation, for example, in Canva. And I do put a lot of my social media posts I will develop in Canva. They have a lot of different templates that you can use to create Instagram posts and Facebook posts and Twitter posts and so on. So they're worth playing with. If you're a nerd like me and you want to go in and just sort of play with some of these things, you'll get lost and then you'll waste all kinds of time. It's a real time suck, but they make things easier. And once you get used to them, it then becomes very easy to use. Something else to think about as well, setting up Google Alerts. If you Google Alerts, it'll give you the step-by-step so that you can put in like keywords that will then send you an email like once a week or once a day or whenever, if there's news. I mean, it's not going to send you anything if there's nothing written about you. So you might put in something about your chapter specifically. I have Google Alerts set for AAUP in general, for the New York State conference, so that anytime anything like that's in the news, you'll get an email alert. Or you can set it up, as I said, however you like. And the other thing too that you'll see are hashtags, which for us old people is the number sign, right? I mean, and people are using this to build their community. So let's say, for example, I have a post on Twitter. Maybe there was a story in Inside Higher Ed about, pick a topic, I guess, COVID. What are we going to do in the fall for COVID? And I want to retweet that, or I want to tweet about that. And I might use a hashtag COVID or Higher Ed COVID. I might search. There are sites that you can go to that will help you with hashtags as well, because people will search for hashtags and then your information will pop up and it'll be more visible. Now, with any of this, you can also get any of your analytics. So if you have an account on Instagram and you want to see, are people looking at me? It'll give you those data. So you can see how many people have come to your website, for example, what pages they're going to, how long they stay. You'll get this with any of the Google analytics. You'll get it with the social media analytics. So there are ways that you can track your progress. And if something doesn't work, stop. Don't waste time doing things that, aren't going to necessarily work for you. And then I have my contact information here because I would be a resource. If you need any help, if you have questions, I'm more than willing to help you out with any of this. I realize I just did a complete crash course in website and social media, and it was very quick. And I'm more than willing to sit down with people individually if that's what they want, to go through this in more detail. I mean, we teach social media classes that are semesters long, so I can understand that, a 20-minute crash course is not going to cover it necessarily. But, I'm hoping that this was at least helpful, that you can think about how you might include some of these resources within your own site. And I will say this too, don't, let perfect be the enemy of the good. I had proposed doing stuff for the New York State Conference that I haven't started yet because the semester ended. So yes, I have all these big plans, but they're not happening right this minute. Okay, life happens. That's okay. So don't think, I've said what you should do as an optimum, but if you can't do that, then you can't do that. Do the best that you can. So I think that's, the most important thing. So that said, I will pause, and I wasn't viewing the chat. So let me see if folks have things. Okay, let's see. Oh, thank you. Yeah, the password. Oh, GIFs are those fun, they're and GIFs are those like animated memes that you see.
Yeah, I think she had to go to a PSC meeting, but they're on your phone. They're sort of like next to the little smiley face icon things, and they're animated. Yeah. I have a question.
You can get lost with those too, man. I'll tell you.
Yeah. I do have a question, Pauline. Do you want questions on the?
Oh my goodness, yeah, please.
As recorded.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, so I have a question that is time consuming, and I'd love to get rid of it. I get a lot of unwanted messages on our website, on our WordPress.
Oh, really?
Yes, like explicitly unwanted messages.
Oh dear. Ooh.
So how does one handle that? They come in the I have never messaged the website, so I actually don't, because I'm on the other side of it.
Right.
But I get notifications in my email that I have a new message.
Mm-hmm.
So I automatically go to the website and check the messages. And
it's something rude?
Pretty much 9.999% out of 10 times, it's not messages that we want. Is there a way to block those, or should I
think you're in WordPress. I'm sure there is. I off the top of my head, I don't know, Sally, but if you want, I can go in and take a look.
Why don't you and I set up a time and we can go in together and look at that, and you can show me? So that would be great. I appreciate that. Thank you.
And you know what? Actually, I have a good friend of mine, excuse me, who works on WordPress exclusively. And I'm sorry, hang on one second here. I have a tickle in my throat. And I'm going to ask her too, because she'll have the answer. Rather than you and I trying to figure this out, she'll know the answer immediately.
See, I think that's the thing, that the conversation,
yeah,
like I'm having an issue with this and I'm having an issue with this. And there's a lot of good training videos, especially for WordPress. I have to say, if you Google, how do you do this on WordPress? Most of the time you can figure it out. But there are, with any website, I'm sure, just those sort of cantankerous issues.
Well, and that's the thing, like
that are easy if you totally understand it, but if you don't, it takes forever. Like Anthony was saying, it takes forever it takes him a long time to load something every time.
Yeah. And if I don't know the answer, I know someone who will. I mean, so that's really, that's what it comes down to too, I think. And I've done that myself. I'll go on Google and just, okay, how do I do this on Wix? Or how does this happen on LinkedIn? Or how do I do this? I mean, Google is my best friend.
Yeah.
But I also have, I have the background, with this as well. So those who please don't, I can't stress this enough. Please don't waste so much time on this that you get frustrated. Reach out to me, Sally, I'm sure you'd help it with if someone had a WordPress question. I would love to be able to help you and take away some of the pain if that's what you're feeling.
Oh, we just stopped hearing you, Pauline. Pauline, we can't hear you anymore. All of a sudden, we just couldn't hear you.
Am I still
Now
out?
now you're
There
there.
you are. There you are.
Oh. Well, I just offered myself for free, so maybe that was it. Maybe my
Oh, see?
yeah, no, I mean, honestly, please don't waste time and get frustrated. I could probably it took me no time to put together some of the basic website for Bonaventure. So, I mean, I could easily help you out. Again, now, if you're in WordPress, it's going to take me longer just because I find it so onerous. Any of the others, though, I could probably help you much more quickly. I'll help you with WordPress, but know that I might say bad words. I'm just going to let you know ahead of time.
I do. I admit, when I'm working on it, I do.
Know that
Right.
there'll be bad words that we
Or I
won't want
growl.
you to we don't want on the AAUP website.
Yeah, I growl.
I say terrible things.
Yeah, so this has been very helpful. Is there anybody else that has any questions? I see Val's there, Catherine, Anthony. Anybody have any questions?
I feel like I was talking so fast too, which I tend to do, so I apologize.
Well, that's
for that.
okay. That's okay. You know what? I think it flowed very well.
Okay.
With if there are there any questions?
An observation, maybe.
Sure.
I went to a social media thing at the summer conference 2 years ago. And some of these social media things are really good if you're in the middle of some complicated campaign, like a contract negotiation or something like that. I mean, we have been relatively quiet for the last couple of years, and I have a Twitter account, but I got nothing to put on it. So it's kind of, it'll be useful when, when stuff heats up, but at the moment it's not really.
And that does happen, because we're not like your regular company. We're not Apple or Coca-Cola or something. I mean, we're not going to necessarily have stuff to populate these different sites all the time.
Right.
And there are going to be certain times too, especially if you're dealing with higher ed, like during finals week, no one's looking at your Twitter. I mean, for goodness sakes, so, and
wait, no, they're all looking at your Twitter.
Yeah, right.
That's well.
And I wouldn't expect that you'd be posting. So,
Right.
Think of your audience too. That's fine. Most of your audience is going to be working on your schedule. So, they're probably not going to be on Twitter looking at you posting some random, and that's the thing, don't post just to post. I mean, have something that you want to say, because otherwise people just get annoyed by that and they'll stop following you. And that's not what you want either. So, thank you for that though, Anthony.
Sure.
Anybody else? All three of you who are still left on the call, right?
You have already offered yourself up, and do remember this is going to go public.
I will. No, that's enough. Let me tell you,
there are likely to be calls. There are likely to be calls later.
I'm also
emails.
one of those people who I don't answer my cell phone if I don't know who's calling. So leave a message and I'll call you back, or text me and I'll respond. But tell me who you are. Don't just text, because I'll think you're creepy otherwise. So you got to give me your name, and then then I'll get back to you. But we're all here for the same reason. I mean, we're here for the same end. We want to make sure that we're protecting faculty in higher education, and that's what we're here for. So if I can help with that, that's I want to make sure we're protecting our rights and encouraging membership, shared governance, academic freedom, tenure. I mean, all of these are important safeguards. So, and I may actually regret, I'll be telling you, Sally, why did I tell everybody I do this for free?
I know, yeah, and I just want to make a correction. If you have questions about WordPress, you can bring them to me, but I cannot guarantee 100% that I can answer them. But I, like Pauline, am really good at getting answers.
Oh yeah.
So
oh my goodness.
If I don't have the answer, I will definitely move on that and try to get the answer for everybody. So
absolutely.
Yes, Anthony.
Did you have a question, Anthony?
Well, I was just going to say, I mean, I said this before, but I'll repeat it. I found WordPress so frustrating that I advocated with our chapter that we hire the student who set up the nice version of it last year, and she's going to get to work. There is some stuff that's going on with our WordPress site. I mean, I could send you the link and it's like, I used to work in tech, and there's no way it would take me days to figure out like what I would actually have to do here. I mean, maybe Sally and maybe you know exactly how to fix it, but I mean, I just figured I can't do this myself. I got to hire somebody. So
Right.
anyway, just a
It's,
thought.
we have, we have Pauline, Anthony,
Yeah.
and from what I understand from Mariah at AAUP National,
Mhm.
who does their, a lot of their work and very, very comfortable with all different websites. She also says that WordPress can be a bit of a bugaboo, right?
Yeah.
And she said that it's often how it's set up that makes the difference. And she went in and looked at ours and she said, oh, I can see that they, so it depends on how it's set up. I will tell you, if I can wangle my way through it, it can be done. But it is, a little bit more. When I'm on I have 3 websites through Weebly. I can just bang in there, add something, move it around, do a picture, and I'm done. And it's not quite that quick on WordPress. So,
Yeah.
but
I
I
have-
really,
Now, I did not do this site. This is my colleague, the one, Sally, I'm going to ask. We do March in Women's History, and I mean, she put this together in WordPress. This is incredible, and I'm not doing this.
oh, she's got all the everything adding up as you go, and yeah.
Oh yeah, I mean, she does a great job. She also spends a lot of time because she's really passionate about making sure this looks this good. I would never recommend that any of you guys do. This is, and she'll let me go in, and if she lets me go in and I get to play with certain things, she's like, you can't break anything. I'll fix it if something goes really wrong. And I think I screwed something up one year, and I mean, it was easy for her to fix, but this is what she does.
Oh, you went silent again. We can't hear you. We can't hear you. We can't hear you. I don't know.
No, but it
Oh,
was,
now we didn't hear any of that, Pauline.
I don't understand.
Yeah,
Okay,
we didn't hear
now?
any of that. What I will say though is you said something that is absolutely key. And that is you have to be in there doing it all the time. And Anthony, I would argue that that's probably some of the issue.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Because when I'm on it all the time, like working on it for hours or on it every day, but there's really no need to be on it every day for me. So, in a space of a time, by when I go back to do something else to it, it's
Sure.
kind of the learning curve, to do it again, as with anything. I mean, that's true
absolutely.
of anything, right? So
Yeah.
I think that, having somebody that, not only has a background, but also has, just be aware that if you're not on it all the time, you're going to have a learning curve. I guess that's the land.
But I don't find that with some of the others, because
No,
I might.
nor do I.
I mean, I
Absolutely
honestly,
not.
but everybody loves WordPress. Has so many really awesome features that if you need those features, you absolutely need to use it. But I almost argue you don't need a lot of those features on your own.
Yeah, most of the really cool snazzy stuff that WordPress offers, we don't use.
No.
In fact, I will say the password protected and sort of membership access stuff, I thought, well, maybe we could use that. And then I thought, how much work is it going to take me to figure out how to do that? Let's do it another way. So we're working with a chapter membership management software package that'll just a whole different kind of setup.
Yeah. And you've got a large chapter. So
We
those are a lot of
yes,
a lot of working parts, right?
Yes.
Right. Yeah, understood. Yeah. Well, I found this to be very interesting and helpful, and I'm going to go back and listen to it again. If there are no other questions, I'm going to take the lead and I'm not letting you in that sense, but encouraging Pauline to go outside and all of us to get outside.
Well, we have to. We're going to hang on the line for a few minutes, right, Sally? Afterwards to talk about.
Yes, we are. Yes, we are.
And you can stop recording now, I guess, right?